You got Ashton Kutcher in love with Mila Kunis on that 70s show. Then they break up for absolutely no reason after he starts hanging out with Diddy. Then he marries Demi Moore, who drained him of all the adrenochrome she can, and apparently he replenished himself by doing inappropriate things with her daughters.
One, yeah. Wow. Okay, I've got a lot. I can't tell. Can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them. There was one moment. So it's not really a party story, but our relationship was really bizarre. So it started over punked because he was like, "Yo,
don't punk
you
me.
can't punk me," and I was like, "I don't want to tell you. Everybody's on the table." He's like, "Not me. I'm off the table."
Malaria no more. Ashton's organization. Give it up for Ashton Kutcher one time. That's why we here. The whole UN. Malaria no more. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that we also buy some of those t-shirts.
Mila Kunis has reportedly dumped Ashton Kutcher after he got implicated in Brittany Murphy's unaliving and Diddy's other crimes. Apparently, this has been coming for a while now, and this recent news has uncovered Ashton's shocking and very questionable past. From his involvement in Diddy's parties to shocking comments he made about Hillary Duff when she was still 15. Guys, this news has people digging into Ashton Kutcher's past, and it's not looking good. So you guys better grab your seats, because what I am about to tell you might just change everything you thought you knew about Ashton Kutcher.
You heard about the reports that Ashton Kutcher, he's worried that Diddy might lie on his friends? You heard about that?
But that's what I've been saying. I said, if the federal government wanted somebody more than they want Diddy, if he has some information about some people that they would rather have other than him, he's able to get that information to them. But they gotta want it. They gotta want it. And Ashton Kutcher and him they were real tight. One time, me, him, Ashton Kutcher went to a Nets game and we met Jay-Z there.
After months of non-stop rumors, word on the street is that Mila Kunis has finally pulled the plug on her marriage to Ashton after reports of the feds possibly reopening Brittany Murphy's case started coming out. And I don't know about you, but when your wife says she wants to divorce you after hearing the police are looking into a mysterious death you have been rumored to be behind, you better start panicking, because it's not a good look. In fact, some are even saying Mila Kunis might have found evidence that Ashton was involved with Brittany's tragic passing away, and if it's true Ashton is involved, you definitely know Diddy is also involved. You see, the unlikely bromance between Ashton Kutcher and Diddy started in the most Diddy way possible, with a not-so-subtle warning back when Ashton was the host of MTV's Punk'd. One day, Ashton had a light bulb moment. Why not punk Diddy? But before the plan could even take shape, Ashton got a phone call, and it wasn't a friendly heads up. According to Ashton, Diddy called him directly and made it very clear it would be in Ashton's best interest to drop any plans of trying to punk him. Translation, don't even think about it. Now you'd think that kind of call would end any chance of a friendship, but nope, this is Hollywood, baby. That unexpected power move was the spark that lit the fuse for a years-long headline-grabbing friendship. From that moment on, Ashton and Diddy were practically joined at the hip. Red carpets, late-night talk shows, exclusive events, you name it, they were showing up together. And then came the infamous white parties. Diddy's lavish, all-white dress code bashes in the Hamptons were the stuff of legend, and Ashton became a regular. He didn't just attend, he raved about them. He once gushed to the Mirror about how iconic Diddy's parties were, calling them an absolute must for any bachelor who knew what was good for him. If you're a single man, there's probably no greater human being in the world to hang out with, Ashton said. This is 20 years ago, 19 years ago. We were having a lot of fun together. Now around this time, after rapping Just Married, Ashton Kutcher didn't waste any time heating up Hollywood's dating scene. Just months after filming, he started dating his co-star, Brittany Murphy. The chemistry from the screen clearly spilled into real life, and by 2003, the two were sparking serious engagement rumors. Why? They were spotted rocking matching rings, which sent the tabloids into a frenzy. But just as quickly as it all began, the romance fizzled out. After 5 whirlwind months or so, Ashton and Brittany called it quits. And here's where things get get even spicier. Enter Demi Moore. Literally the same month he and Brittany split, Ashton was already being linked to the Hollywood icon. May 2003 marked the beginning of what would become one of the most talked about relationships of the decade. Despite the 15-year age gap, Ashton and Demi went full throttle. The couple became red carpet royalty, making headlines with their PDA-heavy appearances and blended family moments. By September 2005, they were officially husband and wife. Ashton didn't just step into the role of husband, he embraced being a stepfather to Demi's 3 daughters with Bruce Willis. All this time, there were constant rumors on why Ashton and Brittany broke up. Word on the street is that Ashton had tried to get Brittany more involved with Diddy and the so-called Hollywood lifestyle, if you know what I mean, but Brittany just didn't want any part of it. So conspiracy theorists even say that Brittany had some evidence of what Ashton and his close pal Diddy were doing and was threatening to go public with it. Then, surprise, surprise, just days after she was allegedly going to go through with her plan to expose Ashton and Diddy, she died under very mysterious circumstances. Almost similar circumstances in which Diddy's ex Kim Porter shockingly passed away in just days after it was rumored she was about to expose Diddy's true nature. In the days leading up to her tragic and untimely death, Brittany Murphy was reportedly spiraling into a state of deep paranoia. Her friends say she became convinced that someone was out to get her. This wasn't just idle worry. Brittany was so frightened that she took major steps to protect herself and her home. She allegedly had fingerprint recognition locks installed, along with a full CCTV surveillance system. It was as if she was trying to barricade herself from someone or someone she believed was closing in. Those close to her at the time say Brittany's fear was palpable. She reportedly confided in friends about strange incidents and people she didn't trust being around her. To some, it sounded like Hollywood anxiety. Now, after Brittany passed away, Ashton dropped a statement saying she was like the person who walked in the room and she was always the first person to dance. He said on Nightline in May 2010, "You know when you go to a party and everybody is standing around and the music is going and you know sooner or later everyone is going to dance. She was always the first person to dance." And I just try to connect to that and celebrate who she was and how she was and not make sense of it because there is no sense of making sense of it. Now fast forward to November 2011, rumors of Ashton Kutcher's infidelity were swirling and they weren't just gossiping. Soon after, Demi Moore publicly announced their split. What followed was a media frenzy. Though Moore had stood by him for years, the whispers of cheating proved too loud to ignore. A year later, in December 2012, Ashton officially filed for divorce. It wasn't a clean break either. The proceedings dragged on for nearly a year, finally wrapping up in November 2013. But while his marriage to Demi was unraveling, Ashton's personal life was quietly taking a new turn. By 2012, right in the midst of the divorce drama, Ashton had already begun dating Mila Kunis. The timing raised a few eyebrows. He was still legally tied to Demi, while sparking something new with Mila. But once the dust settled, Ashton and Mila became inseparable, setting the stage for a whole new chapter in both of their lives. But now, that chapter seems to have come to an end, and looking back, Ashton's past is leaving more questions than answers. You see, when Diddy found himself behind bars, Ashton Kutcher didn't just quietly step back. He made a clean break. In fact, sources say Ashton went to extreme lengths to distance himself from Diddy, so much so that his wife, Mila Kunis, reportedly drew a firm line in the sand. No more contact with Diddy ever. But that decision didn't come out of nowhere. Ashton has a history of being friends with very questionable people. The last time Ashton publicly supported a celebrity friend facing grievous allegations, the fallout was nothing short of catastrophic. Back in September 2023, Ashton's old buddy Danny Masterson, yes, hide from that 70s show, was convicted of R-wording 2 women in 2003 and handed a 30-to-life prison sentence. Masterson denied the charges, but the jury's verdict left no room for doubt. Now, what really set social media ablaze, however, wasn't just the conviction itself, but the fact that Ashton and Mila, along with a handful of other high-profile names, had penned glowing character reference letters on his behalf. You read that right. Ashton Kutcher, the same man lauded for his unwavering activism against human trafficking and abuse, vouched for a man found guilty of violence. Ashton and Mila's letters painted Masterson as a devoted family man and moral exemplar. Call him a role model, no less. The internet exploded with calls of hypocrisy. How could the guy who co-founded Thorn, the organization dedicated to protecting kids from exploitation, turn around and defend someone convicted of assault? Ashton's reputation took a pounding. Fans and critics alike became furious that a leading voice for survivors would lend support to a convicted perpetrator. The outrage wasn't just loud, it was relentless. Suddenly, Ashton and Mila found themselves scrambling to contain the damage. And contain it they did. With cameras rolling, the couple released a joint apology video on Instagram, expressing regret for their actions and acknowledging the hurt their letters had caused. Yet for many, the apology rang hollow, a belated attempt to stem the tide of backlash rather than a genuine reckoning. Yes, Ashton Kutcher's carefully cultivated public image activist, tech entrepreneur, and family man really began unraveling in the wake of one disturbing revelation after another. And you're absolutely right, the resurfaced punked clip and his connections to a dark past in Hollywood have left many questioning who Ashton really is behind the scenes. The Hilary Duff clip was nothing short of appalling.
Hilary Duff is in Lizzie McGuire. She also has an album out. She's going to be in a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. And she's one of the girls that we're all waiting for to turn 18, along with the Olsen twins. Any 15-year-old.
Joking about a 14-year-old becoming legal while referring to Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen in the same breath. It wasn't edgy humor, it was an overtly predatory comment. At the time, the culture may have brushed this sort of commentary aside as boys being boys or dismissed it as shock humor. But today, audiences aren't buying that excuse, and for good reason. Those comments weren't just tasteless, they're dangerous, especially coming from someone who later built a reputation for protecting youngins from exploitation. And don't forget his bet with Danny Masterson about kissing Mila Kunis while she was still 14. Even though Ashton and Mila got married, the story reads as stomach-turning in hindsight. Mila herself has spoken in interviews about how awkward and nerve-wracking her first kiss was, especially since it was on camera and with someone 5 years older. Learning that it was also a bet, that adds a whole new layer of exploitation. And then there's Ashley Ellerin, the 22-year-old fashion student Ashton was dating, who was brutally unalived in 2001. Ashton later testified in court, describing how he arrived at her home that night, saw what he thought was a wine spill, and left after she didn't answer the door. The next morning, Ashley's roommate found her 47 times by the now convicted serial killer Michael Gargiulo, also known as the Hollywood Ripper. Ashton's involvement wasn't criminal, but his testimony became pivotal in the trial years later. Still, it added to the eerie list of dark connections surrounding his life and career, relationships, parties, and friendships that now look sinister in the harsh light of hindsight. When you zoom out, the pattern is deeply unsettling. Joking about underage girls becoming legal, kissing someone who is 14 on a bet, writing letters in support of a convicted R-worder, attending notorious Hollywood parties thrown by men now under federal investigation, being adjacent to a brutal murder. Whether through poor judgment, blind loyalty, or something more complex, Ashton Kutcher's legacy is now marred by contradictions. For a man who once testified before Congress to protect the vulnerable, he now faces a public reckoning over how much of that was authentic and how much of it was a smokescreen. At this point, many are left asking, is Ashton just another Hollywood figure with a carefully managed mask? Or is there a much darker truth we've been ignoring for far too long? Anyways, what do you think about this shocking story? Let me know your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos to ensure you are all up to date with all the latest tea. Till next time, bye.